Hello, this is Unsown with GameLeap, and today we're providing you with a final tier list for patch 13.18. The highlight of this list is definitely where Briar has landed as far as power level goes. She was released with one of the lowest win rates ever, largely due to her having an odd playstyle, but time and a hotfix buff have nudged her into the usual Riot release. We'll primarily be focusing on the S+ tier champions today, with some talk about certain champs moving up or down. Just to clarify to that one guy that always appears in the comments, this tier list is geared towards Emerald and below. Champions like Cassante are obviously godlike in the right hands, but we're going to assume that these types of champions are piloted by the average player. Yes, they're strong. No, they're not intuitive to play. Our goal is to give you the best condensed list so you can climb and still have fun trying out different champions in rank. So let's go ahead and begin with top lane. As with last patch, bruiser top laners are king. Iron Spike champions are still beyond OP in this role. Every Gore Drinker and Strider abuser is ranked really high on this list for good reason. These champions are usually simple to pilot, ultra effective, and turn into absolute meat walls. Aatrox and Renekton are still our S+ tiers of this patch. These champions are insanely strong blind picks and are very stable in even the worst matchups. This will remain the same until there is a significant change to these items or massive nerfs to these champions. Go check out the 13.19 patch preview for a sneak peek at what's to come. If you want a bruiser that gives you the best carry potential, these are your picks. Just a reminder that if you want an in-depth guide to all mechanics, tips, and tricks for any of these champions listed, go ahead and head on over to GameLeap.com by clicking on the description box below. I have been working on the website for over 3 years, creating courses for people like you to use and abuse. If you want to pick up a champion in the shortest amount of time, there is no better resource out there. See you on the site. Darius is still the king of punishing mistakes. This champion is ultra strong with the new Stridebreaker, scales well, and has access to the overbuffed Sterix Cage early game. You get the idea. As far as a straight carry goes, he's definitely the second best in S+, but for ease of use, definitely ranked higher. Garen is our next pick for S+. He's super simple, really solid, and has some of the best scaling in the game. There's a new build going around that breaks this champion. Stridebreaker into Hullbreaker into Double Zeal into Deadman's Plate turns Garen into an absolute split-pushing monster with obscene flank potential. We have so many tank stats that were borderline impossible to stop. The damage from Double Zeal is more than enough to one-rotate even the tankiest of opponents, and the movement speed bonuses we get make us uncatchable. If you notice that your games are going a bit longer or you want to win by split pushing, abuse this champion while you can. Our final S+ pick goes to Camille. Trinity Force Camille is overpowered. Divine Sunderer Camille is very easy to play. While this champion has a higher skill cap, if you invest like 10 games into her, you'll pop off easily. She beats basically all the meta tops after an item or a bit of help, and stomps most of the other carries extremely hard. Camille is Aatrox's #1 hardest counter because the second that she finishes her first item, there is no way that Aatrox can deal with it, for example. Briar has landed, and she's actually pretty solid as far as tops go. Her trades are very good, really strong, and she sets up ganks easily due to her point-and-click CC on Q. I've been keeping my eyes on this champ for a while, and do wholeheartedly believe that she's an S-tier top laner. However, jungle is a different story. We'll talk more about Briar later. As far as top laners to stay away from goes, you guys know the drill, don't bother playing Cassante. Cassante is slated to be getting a rework shortly, they just have him on the sideline for Worlds and Season 14. Jungle meta remains the same as last tier list, with one new blood-sucking exception. J4, as predicted, fell about 10 spots, meaning that he's still really strong, just not as overpowered as some of our other picks here. Rek'Sai is still the best jungler in the game. Stridebreaker just simply breaks this champion. There is no outplaying her ganks because of the point-click CC. Stridebreaker allows her to stay directly on you, and her damage is quite frankly unbalanced. This champion has a low pick rate because she's ugly, and the burrowed stance is a bit odd. You guys really need to abuse her while you can. I promise no champion is better for your LP, even if she's a bit on the ugly side. Briar is undoubtedly overpowered. She sits right behind Rek'Sai in terms of strength in my opinion. This might be a little bit controversial, so let me explain why. Day 1 of her release, Briar had one of the lowest win rates in the game. As far as I recall, it might have been the lowest win rate of a recently released champion ever. A hotfix buff very shortly brought this win rate up, and she quickly started gaining steam. It's kind of hard understanding her E and W at first, but now that she's been live for a week and people are getting the hang of it, it's clear that she's OP. Her damage is high, sustain is ridiculous, CC is just as unskilled as Rek'Sai but from range, and she has a Bel'Veth damage reduction for no reason additionally. This champion will get nerfed, it's not an if, but a win. Play Briar while you can, you will not regret it. Hecarim is still S+ tier with the Shojin into Stridebreaker Phase Rush build. Every other build puts this champion into A tier. This is the only reason that he does not sit here any longer. People are simply just not playing the OP build. If you do, then he's in this tier. Kayn received slight nerfs during the patch. Surprise, surprise, he's still broken. Easy to play. Red is overbuffed by Gore and Sterix. Blue has unlimited mobility and can abuse Broken Duskblade. Abuse him while you can. I bet more nerfs are slated soon. Nocturne is potentially the most slept on champion in the entire game. This champion scales insanely hard, beats Briar, has one of the best solo Q ultimates, in all of League and is super simple to execute. This is clearly a S+ tier pick. Please play him in your games. It is free LP that is yours for the taking. Play Nocturne now. I promise you will not regret it. Evelynn has been OP for a long time. No other AP jungler has the amount of control over his solo queue game that Ev does. While her early game is weak, every gank after 6 should result in a kill, easily placing her in S+ tier. She also has a pretty good matchup into Briar as well, meaning that she will stay in this tier. Bel'Veth has recently come up on the radar as our last pick. This champion has always been strong, but people all at once learned that rushing Kraken into Stridebreaker is hilariously OP on her. This champion's ban rate in EUS Masters went from like 10% to nearly 50% overnight. The funny thing is that she's even stronger in average play, where people don't make use of your weak early game. All it takes is one Rift Herald post 6 on Bel'Veth, and you take over the game with basically no counterplay. A takedown here, a Drake there. Whenever you have your form, you're insanely strong on this champion. Play her before the ban rate catches up in other divisions. All tempo junglers kind of suck right now. The champs that do the best are decent early game with massive scaling. This means that we want to stay away from Lee Sin until next patch. He's getting some massive buffs for worlds that will actually make him decent in the early game again. Even after this though, the farming and scaling junglers that we have listed today will remain strongest. Mid lane has received a rework to Crown of the Shatter Queen that, as we predicted, opened up a lot of new users for the item. AP assassins are up big and definitely worth investing time into, with most of them shooting up in win rate a pretty decent amount with just the crown changes. AD assassin mids are kind of struggling with all the bruisers that are so prevalent, but they're still playable if you're a main. Vex is still the most consistent mid in the game, and she has amazing matchups into all the meta picks. Abuse her for as long as you can if you want free LP. The only thing that prevents Vex from being insanely overpowered is her range. Vex's range is a little bit on the shorter end, so we have to make use out of her ultimate as often as possible. If we're incapable of doing that, then she might drop down a tier. Orianna is our next best pick on the list. Ori's damage has been buffed over and over and over and over and over again, making her a super high damage, high impact, high utility, low risk champion. If you're against a melee mid, this is basically going to be a free win for you. If you're against a champion like Vex who has shorter range, then Ori also has good matchups into them. Riot wanted to see Ori get played at Worlds. I'm betting that this is going to happen with her current state. This champion is bonkers in solo queue. Sylas is our next pick for this list. You guys are really sleeping on this champion. He is giga broken on this patch. Everfrost Sylas removes all the hard Q predictions, and Crown is shaped up to be one of the best items against combo-heavy ranged teams. It is not uncommon to watch Sylas steamroll an entire team by himself. This champion needs to see more play. He's super fun and dumb strong right now. Neeko is broken for obvious reasons. Her kit outside of her camo is very generic and therefore easy to play. She has some of the best CC on a mage paired with huge damage. This allows her to set up plays all over the map without abusing her passive. But the moment that we start abusing it, she is blatantly OP. She definitely needs a numbers nerf in order to change this, either to her crowd control or to her damage overall. Tristana is our last OP pick of the patch, and once again this has to do with how prevalent melees and bruisers are. She has good matchups into like 95% of mid laners, good solo carry potential, and reward split pushing like no other due to her E. For these reasons, Trist will always sit high tier on this list unless her E or her all-in gets nerfed in the early game. Zed is a champion that I do want to give honorable mentions to. This champion is very strong with the Ravenous Hydra build. The only reason that he's held back is because the current meta is unfavorable for him. Every other AD assassin in the game is clearly below Zed at the moment. Bot lane is the next role on our list. There have actually been a couple of changes through the patch, and this is largely due to the static Shiv change. Crit ADCs are struggling, we already know this. On-hit ADCs require too many items to be effective. The game is normally over after 2. But one cast of champions stands above all others. Vayne, in my opinion, is the strongest ADC in the game in average play. The reason for this is that people don't quite understand how to punish her in lane before she gets to Shiv. After Shiv, she can push the wave and look for duels or 2v2s. This has led to Vayne snowballing very consistently and also skipping her weakest phase of the game. Until people play around their auto attack range and harass better, which they won't, Shiv into Trinity Vayne will always be overpowered. If the enemy team doesn't pick obscenely high harass, there is no better carry for playing independently. Vayne in her current state will remain top tier. Ashe is still without a doubt very strong when it comes to her combination of utility and damage. She has an answer for basically everything, is easy to play, and scales really well. She'll also remain top tier until snowball carries come back. Her one weakness is her weaker laning phase, and if this gets addressed by introducing stronger early game carries, then she'll fall down. Until then, Ashe will remain top tier. As with our last video, the Trinity Force users take top 3. Ezreal is dominating bot lane due to his decent early game, immense scaling, and the ability to go Sheen items. Trinity Muramana Ezreal is top tier of course, as is Essence Reaver Duskblade Ezreal. Essence Reaver Duskblade might actually be a little bit better, but for ease of play, Trinity Muramana is definitely way simpler to get into. Pick this champion when you don't trust your support or if you want to kite the enemy team heavily. Just make sure that you leave in auto attacks instead of only spamming Q. MF is one of the biggest benefactors of these low range champions seeing play. She dismantles Vayne, does well into Kai'Sa, decent into Ashe, and also punishes Xayah really hard. Lethality MF is still her strongest build, but crit MF is also decent with WMAX. Swain is our newest addition to this tier as he's finally seeing more play. This champion has been good bot lane since his last readjustment, but he's criminally underplayed. If you can't play Karthus because of his Q, pick Swain instead, and of course, Karthus is our perma S tier, this champion's broken. As far as champions to stay away from, I would recommend that we don't play anything that's super team reliant. Senna is still not good in the AD carry role. Aphelios is too reliant on his team to be useful by himself, you get the idea. Support champions for this patch consist of Engage plus overbuffed Bard and Senna. Engage champions are still very strong, but the buffs to Bard and Senna come through full force for sure. Rakan is back to number 1 in my opinion because it's actually easier to play him against both Bard and Senna post 6 than it is to play Blitzcrank. If you have a hard time hitting max range blitz hooks or knowing how to finesse the lane to not get harassed out, then Rakan is definitely the way to go. He is better sustained, potent all-in, and better teamfight. Rakan is harder to play, but he is very simple post 6, so even if you have trouble picking him up, it'll get significantly easier then. Keep playing him. Senna is busted and will remain this way for a while. Whoever would have guessed that an 8% damage increase on all of her crits would have a big effect. Play her normal Umbral Glaive into Eclipse build for free wins. This champion is bonkers. Bard is up huge after his buffs. Now that people have relearned how to play him a little, he's clearly overpowered. A champion with so many different builds, a unique playstyle, and this sort of roaming potential shouldn't have a win rate this high. He won't get nerfed for a while as well. Go ahead and invest some time into him. Blitzcrank is still without a doubt very strong, but Blitz is only as good as you are at hitting your Q key. One well-placed hook changes the course of a game, and he counters both Bard and Senna. This means that he can potentially be crazy, but you have to be accurate. It is very easy to ruin a lane by missing 2 to 3 important hooks against these champions. Also, please take Hexflash on Blitzcrank. Hexflash breaks this champion. If you aren't running it, then you're trolling. Thresh also went up a massive 3% win rate when using the correct build compared to last patch. This champion without Guardian and maxing W second sat at 49.5% win rate, while this patch he sits at 51% with just swapping from Glacial to Guardian. If you play Guardian Q into W max Thresh, the difference grows even more substantially, putting Thresh as the highest win rate support bot lane when played the correct way. Thresh is really good, but I would not recommend picking him unless you're actually a Thresh main or somebody that plays the champion consistently. While his matchups are good, they are very knowledge heavy. Senna is a strong champion into Thresh if you're incapable of hooking her, and Rakan is also decent into Thresh if you don't know how to predict his W. However, if you're able to react to Senna and to Rakan, then Thresh is very clearly top tier. Anyways, this was Unsung with Gamely. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys in the next video.